Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to play for you, and what an esteemed honor it is to be able to share with you on such a prestigious stage. Let's talk about something that we all hold dear, our creativity. For centuries, it has been the domain of humans. It's like a reflex. It seems that creation is a natural urge for us to take our thought, transform it into idea, and to bring it to life. It is fueled by vivid imagination, hard work and practice, and even struggle. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago in a life that was the result of tragedy. My mother, she wanted me to be great. She wanted to equip me with anything that would get me out. She put me in the best schools. She put me in piano lessons at the age of 5 when she couldn't even afford it. She took everything and sacrificed for me to be able to be educated at one of the most prestigious music institutions in the world. When I was 12, my mom took out payments and she bought me a white baby grand piano. It also doubled as a cool piece of furniture for her, but when I didn't have anything or anybody, I had that piano, and my creativity was my best friend. Because of my creativity and the love of my mother, I have been able to see the world, be a part of some great things with some really cool people. And I've been able to chisel out a way for myself in the music industry. And here we are at a crossroads where this incredible new tool, AI, is challenging our understanding of creativity, of artistry, and even ownership. And as someone who's been immersed in music and the arts for my entire life, I'm asking the same questions that everybody else is asking. Is AI here to replace us, or can it help us? And how is using AI in my own work redefining my own creativity? I'll take you back. Not even too long ago, I was in the studio, September of 2024. I was with an artist, and we were in the studio, and we were getting ready for tour, and we were putting the set list together, and she said, "Rob, I need an intro." And, you know, her voice is famous for being the voice of one of the most iconic movie soundtracks of all time. And so it had to be massive, it had to be big. And so she said, I need it to be cinematic, Rob, and I need it to have strings, and it has to build, and it has to have these drums, and I need to come to this really big climax, and then you have to have the floor drop, and then I'm able to come out and I can address my audience, and I can sing my first song. And that's cool, that's what I do, I'm an arranger. But the dilemma is that she needs it by tonight, because tour starts tomorrow. My usual process is to go over to the piano and pluck out a couple of things, hope the wires start firing, hope the muse shows up in the corner, hope lightning strikes from up above, and bam, there's my great idea. But if you ever created anything, you know that's not how it even goes. You know how tedious and how hard you have to work to get to even a not so good idea. Something that you hate, you scrap, and then you start all over, and I just don't have the time for that. Neither my skills nor the tools that I have is enough for me to deliver this tonight. The studio we was in is owned by one of my best friends who is a multi-Grammy award winner and a genius in his own right, and he suggested that I use AI. Not to say I was a skeptic at first is an understatement, because I've known about these AI tools, but without even trying it, to me it was like soulless machine music. I know people are using these things to help them write songs, but I need score. It's not gonna give me score. He was like, you should just try it, man. Okay, so I went over to the prompt bar and I typed in, a lush string orchestral intro with a cello solo, that builds up to everything that she told me she wanted. I put in the prompt bar and I pushed create. And you know what AI gave me that I didn't have? Options, possibilities, strong foundational ideas that I was able to build upon, and that did get my wheels turning. And before I knew it, I was able to take 2 bars of this AI and put it with a cymbal swell here and a little timpani roll here, and what about 3 bars of this AI here, and that needs a little harp right here and a little shimmer here and a little sound design, and here's the engine right here, and bam, there was her intro. And I sent it to her, and it was everything that she wanted. AI didn't replace me, it amplified me. It actually made my job easier. It took me from point A to point B quicker. And no matter what idea I would have come up with on my own, this was a better idea. And instantly in that moment, it reframed my perspective on what it means now to create. My initial resistance to the use of AI to do what it is that I do was not the technology itself, but what I thought the technology represented. Creativity, yes, it's freedom, and how good it is subjective, sure, but when you get paid from somebody to make music, creativity is about mastery. People only want to work with the best, the ones that it is obvious that they have put their 10,000 hours in and honed their craft. That's the way you're able to expect an incredible result. Does AI cut that path short? Am I cutting corners? Am I cheating? If it's this easy to do, will there be no need or desire to master anything anymore? There's a quote that speaks to this that says, the greatest impediment to our creativity is our impatience, the almost inevitable desire for us to hurry up the process, express something, and make a splash. What you'll find in such a case is that you do not master the basics. You have no real vocabulary at your disposal. What you mistake for creative and distinctive is really an imitation of other people's style. Personal rantings that really don't express anything at all. Right, Robert Greene, that's what I think. That's what I think about AI. I think it's unfair for somebody who hasn't mastered the basics to be able to type a few clever words into something, and voila, there it is. Some work. And here I am concentrating on what I think it will be in someone else's hands when I should be concentrating on, but what would you do with it, Rob? I learned that my use of AI didn't forego my mastery, but that it was actually mastery that allowed me to wield it effectively. It was AI that allowed me to understand and transform and spark of an idea and to give it meaning. In fact, the more masterful you are, the more you can tell it to get better results. I found out that mastery and AI are not opposites. They're actually partners. There's so much talk around the industry about the use of AI to create music, songwriters, producers, legitimate concerns. And, you know, if it could be this easy to make, then what do you need us for? Will this cheapen what we hold so sacred about human art? The realness, the rawness, the authenticity, the imperfection? But history will tell us that this fear of replacement and this resistance to innovation is not new. If you think about the synthesizer, you'll see that when it came out, people scoffed at it, and people said, you know, this is going to put a whole lot of musicians out of work. This is going to kill traditional music. And if you're familiar with auto-tune, the death of auto-tune, that was a whole thing. That was, you know, you can't sing, but this will fix it. It was considered cheating, and now those things are really essential to the game. And it didn't limit creativity, it actually expanded the possibilities. Can the same hold true for AI and human collaboration? I don't think it's here to replace our creative humanity, but the technology does exist, and I would be smart to learn it, to see how it can apply to my work, to see if it could push my imagination even further. Fear could have me lose out on an opportunity, and the challenge wouldn't even be the technology itself. It would be my willingness as a creator to evolve. You know, this whole thing about cheating and cutting corners, it was fueled by my ego. My desire to hold something, you know, and protect something about, you know, I've created my own sound, or that, you know, I was the sole source of my own creative output. I had to reposition my ego, and I had to say, is this a source with ideas that are better than yours? Sure, I know how to work very hard to come up with a great idea, but I also know a great idea when I hear one. Let's take someone who has been the goalpost for my whole career, the late, great master of all, Quincy Jones, who early in his career, we know, put every note on that page, meticulously arranging every detail of his compositions. But as Quincy evolved as a producer, he started to lean on the genius of others. He started to accept alternative opinions of musicians who were masters in their own right, people who knew about the technological advances of the day. And he honed in on their collective brilliance, and because of it, he was able to create some of the greatest art in modern music history. And it didn't diminish his mastery. It didn't make him any less of a creator, and it didn't take away from his creative control. In fact, Quincy's genius, at a certain point, was collaboration. So what if I looked at AI instead of a rival, that it was an influential collaborator, a tireless partner in the room to offer ideas, help me express myself, and give me new possibilities and maybe transform my thinking. Quincy's collaborators helped him push his visions even further. Maybe this can help me push my visions even further as well. But that brings in something else. Those collaborators were actually paid for their work, and they were credited. So where does that stand with AI? We know that all art is influenced by other art, but we also know how these large language models have been created and how they've been trained. They've been trained on the works of a lot of artists that weren't asked, they weren't credited, and they weren't compensated for their work. There's already uproar. Sir Paul McCartney and Sir Elton John already bringing up ethical concerns about these AI systems and companies, using copyrighted work to train their models, and that's not fair. So we need to lead with transparency and with fairness. We need to create models that allow for AI human transparency. We need to also create models that allow us to track and credit and give full attribution, fair compensation, fair acknowledgement for the work that is being generated and for the work that is being used to train these AI models. And we have to talk about integrity. What happens when there's, an artist whose fan says to them, "I love your work. It speaks so dearly to me. I love your lyrics," only for them to find out that it's AI? What happens when there's a human and the machine creates something greater than the human and the human just passes it off as their own ingenuity? That's not fair. So we need to talk about integrity, and we need to give the power of the control to the artist. We need to create fair systems that allow artists to be in control of their own work, to be able to monetize their work, share their work with their audience, and get fair value for their work. We need to also create systems that disrupt the outdated models. We need to create systems that bypass the gatekeepers so that artists don't have to rely on intermediaries that often put profits over creators. AI is not about just the tools, it's about responsibility. And if creators feel exploited, they will reject these tools, but if they feel empowered, they will embrace them. So how do we move forward? We move forward with transparency. We respect the rights of these creators' work that is being trained for these models. It starts again with accessibility. We create things and systems that allow the creators to have control. And it ends with education, where we teach creators how to use AI effectively and ethically. We need AI systems that are created for solutions for already existing problems, and not for AI to cause more problems. So, I'll ask you, is AI here to replace us, or is it here to help us? I say it's here to help us evolve. And if we can embrace these tools, we can address the ethical concerns, and we can get the power and control back to the creator. I believe in a world where human creativity and AI can come together to create some of the most remarkable, extraordinary art that we have never seen and heard before. The real question is, are we ready to embrace that change? Well,